and welcome to Hegel. As you can see, we are in this magnificent building. Unfortunately for this day, we make our company outfit in California, so that's a bit sad, but come in. All right, welcome to the lab of Hegel. I think this is the first real tour video we've done of the R&D labs of Hegel. So that's everything behind me. But there's been one rumor through some videos online that in the fridge of the Hegel kitchen there is only beer. And is that true? Or is it not? It's not. Today there is even soft drinks, and there could have been beer, but either the rumor is fake or somebody just drank it all. So we'll see that when the next product comes along, I suppose. But that was the myth. And so let's move into the lab. So all Hegel products are designed ground up here in Oslo. So we're not a very big team. So everybody does a little bit of everything. But normally this is full of people, but now due to COVID, we cannot have them here when we're filming. Here is normally Trond, who is the service support to Hi-Fi Klubben and to all other repair centers around the world. Trond also designs the mechanical parts, like the volume controls and everything. Like even the volume control of each individual Hegel product are milled out of one solid piece of aluminium. Each and every one is treated like one unit, and Trond designs everything, down to the screws on the back of the new phono stage that we will talk about later, probably. Is designed ground up by Trond. Over here is the software department. Currently there are 2 people here working full time, and now, as you might imagine, a very big thing is runt that we hope will come very soon. It's been a big project. This is just testing stations where we test software. The head software engineer is Joachim. There's another guy called Anton. But this is basically where they test and write the software of Hegel. A lot of the software in Hegel amplifiers is proprietary, so we write the operating system ground up, and then we use some outsiders also to help us to implement functionality for our streaming engines and so on. But all that is done here. If we move along over here, this is the domain of our owner and founder, Bent Holter, who started this company. He started the company as we know it now in 1995-96. But the foundations for Hegel was laid back in 1988. And he has also been the sole owner of Hegel since 2000, when he took it over from, or took it back, because we had a big investor called Telenor phone company. Back then. This is his testing station. So we have only the best measurement equipment you can buy. This is the Audio Precision 2722. We have several of those. We also have them at our factory in China. So we use the same or our own testing tools all the way around. These are just some of a huge number of lab rats that Bent constantly tweaks on. This is his desk with more lab rats hidden around it. Components, parts, to a certain degree. We buy a lot of parts. One of the things, people who are into tube amplifiers, for example, may know that you can buy vintage tubes. You can upgrade your tube amp with old Russian or Chinese or Second World War tubes, stuff like that. There weren't many Second World War transistors, but there are vintage transistors. So we spend a lot of time searching for vintage, good collections of transistors. And it's some of the same benefits to that. So our reference pieces use some very vintage FET transistors, for example, from a factory that has burned down so it can never be made again. Digression. This is the sales office. That's a world map. We are 3 people working with sales here in the Oslo office. That's me first, and Christian, and then Andreas in the back. Then we also have 2 people who work for us with sales that live in the UK. And we have 2.5 people who work with sales and support in our American daughter company, Hegel America. So there isn't really that much exciting going on here. We have these big whiteboards because I love whiteboards. And this is one of our big plans for 2021. That is to wake an old hi-fi club and legend that most of you haven't heard about because it was a Norwegian phenomenon back when. But we will see, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But from South Park, the plan is called Project Cannot Possibly Fail. Small offices, more parts. The last stop in the lab, basically in here, where we build all the prototypes. Because we always build reference samples here in Oslo. We do not do all the assembly in Oslo. We assemble some of the components, we assemble our sound engine drives and things like that, but the products themselves are not built here. But we do build all the prototypes ground up here in Oslo. And this is the lab for that. More audio precision measurement tools, obviously. There are part stock and everything in here. In the degree that we make service repairs in Oslo, this is also the place we do that. But normally, for the hi-fi club and customers, you have an excellent service repair center in Denmark that handles all of that, also for vintage Hegel products. So that's it. Let's move into the museum and the listening rooms. All right. So this is the entrance to our listening labs and where we have guests and do trainings and so on. And this is really a little bit part of the museum. One brilliant idea we had, me and one of my former colleagues, who is now working at Hi-Fi Club and Solutions in Oslo, was that we loved the white amplifiers we made. And we thought, let's make it in many other colors. So Frederick, my ex-colleague, brought these rust, which is now the grandfather of the H120, to car lacquering centers, and he made a green one and a blue one and this copper one. We all love the copper one. And we made them as samples and tested them a little bit on people to see if somebody would want to buy them. And people did want to buy them, especially the copper one. The problem with these essentially was that they were becoming too difficult to make or too expensive to make. The copper one is too difficult, and the other one is too expensive when you make something in very small quantities. That's not really what Hegel is about. Hegel is trying to streamline things to get really high performance for a price you can actually pay. And these fell a little bit outside of that. The next one here is one we gave to a pop artist in Denmark, who is locally famous in Denmark at least. We gave him 2 of our amplifiers and asked for 1 back. And he painted it and shipped it back. I absolutely love it. In his home, everything is painted like this. Everything. There are a couple of walls that aren't, but his dishwasher, his chairs, his dining room table, his floor, everything is like that. So if this guy isn't absolutely crazy from living there, I don't know. These are just some older designs. This is the H90. It's an H30. It's one of the few, or the first Hegel amplifiers that were made for the home back in the early 90s. I think the name is C8150, if I'm not mistaken. This one, though, is the very first one, and this is the reason why Hegel actually came to be. You can see the design is already there, but this is professional amplifiers for that Bent made for a stage in central Norway, in Trondheim, called Samfunnet. He made 5 of these back in 1988, and it was the first amps he made, and he called them Hegel Audio because the band he played guitar in were called the Hegel Band. So 4 of these are still playing as far as we know. This one we got back because it says channel A fucked as a fault description on it, and so we gave them a new one. But that is the first Hegel amplifiers, and it doesn't actually have a name. For those very interested in hi-fi, I could mention that most of the mechanical parts from this is actually from a brand that used to be a big, or not a big, but a renowned Norwegian hi-fi brand called Auditon. So Bent lived in Trondheim, they were from Trondheim, so he went to Auditon and he bought parts so he could build the actual amplifiers. That's kind of cool. If we move in here, that's more the actual museum part. Here are one of each of all the amplifiers we've ever made. As you can see, most of them, starting from 1995, all of them look like they do today. It's the same curve, it's the same buttons, it's the same basic placement of the buttons. The design here won a couple of design awards back in the mid-90s, and it's designed ground up by Bent Holter, our founder, also the mechanical parts. There are a few products here that I think is a little bit extra funny when you look to the back. This is a product that's called Hegel Super. We were very proud, and we were so looking forward to launching the Hegel Super. I can't exactly remember the year. My brain is freezing. But this is a USB headphone amplifier. Because we saw a brand Hi-Fi Club works very closely with, AudioQuest, launched their headphone amplifiers for USB, so we thought we can make that a whole lot better. So we made the Super in a very nice aluminum casing, and we were so proud. We launched it to the market, and we sold almost 0. At one point, I looked at the statistics on my computer, and we had 18 years supply of this at one given point. But then we reduced the price a little bit, and suddenly they all sold out in just a few months. And now they sell sometimes used for more than we sold them new in the beginning. That's kind of cool. These are the DACs, which was one of the big reasons that Hegel gained the money to start to grow, especially the HD10, this one, that we launched in 2009. It was a very big success for us. We had been making amplifiers, we'd been making DACs for a few years, but in 2009, after Spotify came and started to become publicly available, people wanted DACs, and we made, with the HD10, a DAC that was way above and beyond what the other guys did at that time and at that price. This is one of the less popular things we made. Not the amp, because the Rust, which is this one, was a huge success. But we decided to have an off-white color. The Germans would call it Steckdoseweiß, because we thought people are going to touch these buttons all the time. And if it's bright white, it's going to be dirty very quickly. So we choose one that was just a shade of bright white. People didn't like that very much. Some liked it very much, but some also complained a whole lot. So the newer ones are white. I have one of these classic off-white ones because I love it together with the wooden furniture. And I know several Hegel users do the same. But in general, this is a little outlook on the various products we have. So, the last stop is the Holy Grail. It's where we serve hot dogs and beer whenever we have visitors. It's also where we sometimes sit quite late at night to listen to products during R&D, and that is our listening room. So come on in. Of course, today we've tidied up a little bit, but you can see we have some very nice speakers. The BMW 702 S2, which sound magnificent together with Hegel, which is very nice. Today we have a stack of turntables for reasons that will become obvious very soon. By this time, we are launching our first ever phono stage. That was supposed to be a very small product or project. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. But one cool thing was that we originally planned to make a very small phono stage. Very simple design. But then, as always with Hegel, some of us, and in this case our owner, gets total on fire because he discovers how fun it can be. And so he begins to design a quite advanced and high-end phono stage. One of the fun things I think is that when I talked to him and I said, we have to listen to this, we have to do more and more listening, so we need to buy a high-end turntable. And he said, no, Anders, that's not a problem. I have a turntable we can use. And then the next day, he came back with this. Our Dual CS505.3 with an orthophone cartridge. Well, we didn't use that very long, did we, to design our high-end phono stage. That's just other story. This is a wall of some awards that we've won. We have won 4 ISA awards the last 5 years, which we're very proud of. This is a Lyd og Bilde Product of the Year awards. There is some stereo sound. There is a lot of Soundstage Network awards. iEar from Netherlands. Enjoy the Music and various things. One of the things we're actually most proud of, or I am most proud of, is this from Netherlands, because this was a public vote on hi-fi.nl. That was fall of 2019, so one of the last few shows I could ever go to, where people had voted, regardless of price, regardless of anything, what is the best product. And Hegel with the H390 won by a landslide over the next contender in the best product. So I think we had twice as many votes as anything else from normal consumers and users, which I find very, very cool. Hi. So this will be my first ever unboxing, because we're going to unbox this new product that is coming to Hi-Fi Club very soon, or actually is there. And that is the first Hegel phono stage ever, called the V10. We're going to talk more about that afterwards, so let's wait a bit on the talking. But this is the V10 in nice Hegel orange. Everything here designed by my good friend and colleague Andreas, who's made the box, and he's been even the barcode is pure hi-fi. But this is the box, and as we say in Norway, vi har juksa litt. So it's already open like this. Brilliant. You open it, the first thing you find is the manual. So this is a manual that really has Norwegian pictures. It's very easy to use and read, and it's also very thorough. You find all the basic settings in here, and then there's a special support page also online where you can find more details on the settings of it. This is the manual for the V10. You take it out of a container, these off. There's a nice hood, so you can also protect it if you want to move it later on. Plastic for long shipping. And this is the V10. Right here. I'll leave it here for now. And then the power supply is packed beneath it. So this is the power supply for the V10. Some people think this looks very simple, and it does look very simple, so they would be right. But on the inside it's actually quite advanced. It's an E-core transformer, and this one is custom built very specially for the V10. It's extremely low noise, and obviously we could have put it in a nice big aluminum box with, you know, Hegel logos and everything on it, but that would have raised the price of the V10 significantly, and we don't want that. We want this to still be something that people can afford to upgrade their turntable, whatever it is. This is the power supply. Looks like dual mono, which it isn't, but there's still one for left and one for the right channel that you connect in the bottom here. You also have descriptions of all the settings in the bottom. These look very hard to read, and that's because this one is a prototype. So the production model has much clearer writings here on the bottom. But these are the settings for the dip switches and the inputs and outputs on the back. So that's it. That is the V10.
Hi and welcome to week 2 of Hi-Fi Weeks here at Hi-Fi Klubben. I'm here joined by Anders Ertzeid from Hegel in Norway, who's going to talk to us about Hegel and what's all about Hegel.
Well, yes, good question. No, first of all, thank you for coming. What's special about the Hegel? What's going on with Hegel? It's a lot of things. I mean, first of all, we're together with Hi-Fi Klubben now. We have been that for a year and a half almost.
Yeah, November
2019. Yeah. So that's a big development for us because you are the main resellers of Hi-Fi in all of Scandinavia. So
in Europe, I think.
And Europe, yes.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
True. So no, that's a very big thing. And for us, of course, we have been working really hard to try and make products that we think will fit you and fit very well with the Bowers and Wilkins and Dolly speakers that you sell a lot of. But the core of Hegel that we like to talk about is that we're a very no-nonsense brand from up here in Norway, where we are a bunch of guys. We're 7 people in the office who develop and design and market some of the world's best hi-fi, in our own humble opinion.
Yeah, not only your opinion, but mine as well.
Yeah, so we're 2 at least.
Yeah, we're at least 2. And that's good, that's good.
Maybe 3, we'll see on YouTube, maybe.
So, in Hi-Fi Weeks, we're celebrating good sound.
Yeah.
What's good sound? And who decides what good sound is?
That's a good question. But first of all, we think good sound is the original sound of an instrument. So if somebody's playing a guitar, good sound is to reproduce the sound of that guitar down to the tiniest detail. And that's a very nice story, but in hi-fi it's not true. Because one thing is that there are so many elements and so many uncertainties and so many things that are different when you play back a recording of that guitar compared to a guy just sitting in the room playing his guitar. It's the recording process, it's the mixing and mastering of that record. It's the storage and distribution of that recording. It's the amplifiers, the DA converters, it's the loudspeaker, it's the cable, it's everything. So what is good sound for us in hi-fi? It's about doing as few things wrong as possible.
Yeah.
So for us, measurements is one of the most important things. Because an amplifier or a DA converter or a phono stage, for that matter, should add as little of itself as possible. So we use measurement tools, and we have our patented amplification designs that are all about adding as little as possible. And then in the other end, at the output of the amplifier, try to correct as many of the errors you've made as possible. And pass on something that is as equal to what you get in as possible. And for that we use measurement tools, like the instruments will show you in the R&D labs, but then we also use listening. Because you measure to a certain level, then you start listening, and you listen for errors, listen for things it does wrong, then bring it back again to the measurement bench. And then when we release a product that we think sounds good, then it's because we think this is as far or as close to the original that we can possibly come for that budget.
And the fixing of the output stage, that was the sound engine design.
Yeah.
That's the entire thing about Hegel.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's true. When our founder, Ben Tolter, studied for a degree or a master degree in microelectronics in Trondheim back in the late 80s, he built 5 professional amplifiers for the live stage at the school he was going to, because he was playing in a band called the Hegel band, and the building of those, who actually has nothing to do with modern day Hegel, it inspired him to look deeper into amplification design, because he's very curious of nature, which is something we'll come back to when we'll talk about phono stages. He's very curious and he's wonder if there's a way to make this better, or do this different, or do this better. I don't think he ever thought that he would be the owner and designer of an amplifier manufacturer, but he wanted to see if he could change how amplification was made.
Do it better.
Do it better.
Yeah. So Bent has been making amplifiers longer than I've been alive. And
I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and he should have. Well, and Hegel is really good at making amplifiers and DACs.
Yeah.
But for the first time ever, you proceeded to certainly go into the phono stage market.
Yeah.
With a new exciting V10 phono stage.
Exactly.
Which is really neat.
Yeah.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Well, it's a couple of whys. Why did we make a phono stage? It's because for years we've seen that analog has had a revival. Like physical media has actually had a revival, but vinyl in particular. And a lot of people, press, dealers, Hi-Fi clubbing, have been asking us to make a phono stage. And we've always said, or I have said, no, that's not our thing at all. There are so many who makes good phono stages. And Bent, who's, ultimately the decider, said, no, but if we did, it wouldn't be a problem. It would be so easy because I've almost designed one already, so it's sitting on the shelf. It would be very easy, but we're not going to do that. And then we decided, well, let's make one then. And we first thought that we would make something that would be very easy. So as I've joked about when we walked around here, Bent first brought his old dual turntable so we would have something to compare with, and me, I brought this Project Phono Box E, and I thought we should try and make something that's better than this. So our ambitions was about this high. Yeah. So we were going to make something that was better than this, not crazy expensive. And then it all went south.
It all went south.
Yes, because that's the thing about Bent.
Yeah.
Because one of the things I love about working for Bent and working in this company is that, he starts making something that is according to plan and reasonably easy, saying that, guys, no, this is a small project. And then he becomes curious and think, ooh, what if I do? Oh, what if I? But I have these old transistors that I bought 15 years ago, and they're from the 1980s, and they were such a good pressing. And what if I take those and we do that? And what if we make a custom E-core external power supply? What if? And then it's completely down the rabbit hole, and then you end up with something entirely different to what we originally planned. But we always end up with something that is really good, at least in our own, perhaps not so humble opinion, but in our own opinion, something that we're really proud of, and we think brings something completely new to the world of whatever we're making, and in this case, phono stages. My project.
Yeah. So what does the V10 do differently than the Phonobox E?
Well, this is the inside. This is the inside of a prototype. So in this one, the boards are green, and in the one you'll see in the store, if you take it up, which you never should, but if you do, it's going to be black. Just in that sense. Anyway, what does it do? Well, many things. I mean, it's almost meaningless to compare this to a Phonobox E, to be honest. One thing is, of course, that this is made of metal, not plastic. I'm not saying anything wrong about, I need to stress that I'm not saying anything wrong about the Phonobox E. It's a fantastic piece for the money it costs. This is 20 times more. Yeah, so it should be better, right?
It definitely should be better.
So this one is made of steel.
Yeah.
It's an aluminium front plate, but everything here is shielded by steel, and that's a very good idea, because phono stages should be silent, and the stainless steel protects it against outside sources of noise, right? Then inside here, this is the power supply. There's an external power supply to this also that people think looks so-so, but it's actually very good, and it's one of the reasons this one is 15,000 Norwegian krona and not 23,000. But there's a very good internal power supply with quality components that is physically shielded and protected very much from the gain stage. Because when in a phono stage like this, before the signal goes out again to the preamp or integrated amp, you have about 60 to 70 dB gain. So the signal you get in, especially from an MC pickup, is extremely low and very sensitive to noises and interference from this or anything outside.
Yeah,
that's one of the big things. And the noise floor in this, I've seen reviews now, because some reviewers have had it and measured it and compared it to things that are 10 times more expensive. And the noise floor in this is just silly low. And I think Hi-Fi News' Paul Miller said it nicely when he just said that the noise floor of the V10 is just outstandingly low. So it's very low.
Yeah. It's quiet.
It's very quiet. The benefit of quietness is more resolution, right? Because if you have a lot of noise, the noise is like the background fan in this room or a waterfall or something. You cannot hear those small sounds that are below the noise floor. So it can still sound warm, fat, juicy, but you don't get the openness and the scale of the sound stage and that. So noise, especially on the phono stage, extremely important. The other thing is the gain stage. The most of these simpler designs of phono stages use something called operation amplifiers for the gain stage. And one of the challenges is distortion. You and I just talked about that kind of distortion just before the camera started rolling. But to make it somewhat simpler here, these operation amplifiers, first of all, they stress the pickup. They stress the element by sending something called a DC feedback to the pickup. which is not good. And the other thing is they create a lot of distortion. But they're very good at doing low noise, very powerful gain. But they're not very good at being the first gain stage. So in the V10, we are using something called FET transistors, which is exactly what I mentioned to you. These FET transistors, they have characteristics just like a tube. Only they're transistors. They work in the same way. It's not a vacuum, but other than that, it's the exact same way of operation like a tube. And they don't have specifically the higher order harmonic distortion, the things that can make this sound a little bit hard, a little bit edgy, and so on. They're very, very smooth, like a tube. And they do not give any DC feedback to the pickup. So one of the specialties in the V10 is that the first two gain stages are FET transistors. First one for the MC, and that one again feeds into the next level, which is for the MM. So you should never connect both an MC and an MM pickup here at the same time. Never. It's a very bad idea. It doesn't break, but it will distort the sound. So the first two gain stages are FET, and then they again feed into an operation amplifier of very high quality to lift the signal up to the last level. So it's the best of two worlds in gain stages. This is designed in the same way you will see in very, very high-end, much more expensive types of phone stages.
Cool.
So in short, OUT's external power supply, custom designed for this exact one. Very good shielded, well-shielded internal power supply, and then very high quality, low distortion gain stage.
Awesome.
It is awesome.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Sounds like something I need to have myself.
You do. You absolutely need to have one. So yeah, no, this is the V10, our first phono stage. We are very proud of it, and we're so looking forward to hearing what people think when they get one in the store.
And it'll be in stock soon.
Just about now.
Just
as
about
you
now.
watch this video, it's on a trailer going down to Denmark.
Yeah. Just go ahead and order it as you see this video.
Yes. Order now.
Order now. Cool.
So yeah, this is the V10.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting it in my store and getting it home, to say the least.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear what you think.
Yeah. So we've also gotten some questions from the audience or from the public. There's Ronny from Denmark who's just gotten his H190.
Ooh,
and he loves it. He thinks it's a wonderful piece of machinery. But he wonders, what's the thing about damping factor? Why does that matter if you don't have a 1 centimeter thick copper cable?
No.
And how should he explain it to his friends?
Well, he doesn't need to explain it to his friends. For the friend question, put on some electronica or put on a piece of rap with deep thumping bass that would otherwise just be crank up the volume to obscene levels and just hear it.
Hitting your chest.
That's damping factor explained to your friends just by playing it. But in theory, even though you have a cable and the cable obviously impacts the damping factor really only matters at the output stage, where the transistors are on the output stage. That's the only place it matters. And that will not change. So the damping factor is really explaining how well the amplifier can stop the return kick from the loudspeaker. In technical terms, there's a difference between the output impedance of the amplifier versus the input impedance of the speaker. And then obviously the speaker wire will impact that, and and things like that. But at the output stage, the damping factor, the higher the damping factor, the better the amplifier is able to stop the return kick of current from the loudspeakers. And if it does that really good, it will be more stable as an amp, and a more stable amplifier gives tighter and deeper and better bass.
Nice. And I think we have a question too. Yes, from Sergej in Sweden.
Yeah.
He has a big question regarding the future firmware updates of your network streamer units. Rune?
Yeah.
Please?
Yeah.
And also Tidal Connect. He wonders if that will be coming to any of the current lineup.
Yeah. But to take the first one first, Rune. That's the biggest media disaster we've ever done, I think. And hopefully the biggest one we'll ever do. And that is entirely my responsibility for having said that, yes, we'll get Rune and it will come soon. That even rhymes. And we thought it would be a breeze. And we were a little bit cocky, I think, because we had done so many things and we've always succeeded on the first try. So when we made our first AirPlay device, we sailed through certification on the first try, which was unheard of in 2014. When we made Spotify Connect, we sailed through even tighter demands just a couple of years ago when a lot of manufacturers got kicked out of Sonos because they couldn't meet them. No problem at all. So we thought, Rune, it'll be a breeze. It will be exactly like we planned it to be. And it wasn't. No, not at all. But we're working very, very hard on it. I feel confident that we'll have good news very soon. I know for Sergej that will probably not be enough because I've said this before. But I have high hopes. And the only thing I can promise is that we are working really, really hard. If Sergej and a lot of others want Rune, I can promise him that nobody, even if you put all of those together, that will be less of a desire for Rune than it is for our developers who are responsible for making Rune. They really want Rune, and I really want Rune very soon. As for Tidal Connect, that's a fantastic new feature. I don't have an answer for that yet. We're still investigating, and we hope to be able to implement as many of the functions that people want. Yeah.
Yes, thanks for the answers.
Well, long answer to a simple question again.
Well, the fantastic. Less that I have to speak, the better. So I think, are there any plans for the future? What's in store for Hegel to come?
Yes, what's in store for Hegel to come? We're usually very secretive about things. You could probably take that Rune communication failure as a good example for why we should stay silent about our plans. But we do have a plan that we confirmed yesterday internally. And that is to try and wake up someone who was sort of a legend in Hi-Fi Klubben in Norway many years ago. So the old guys who've been dealing with Hi-Fi Klubben up here in the cold white north for many years, or have been working in Hi-Fi Klubben, will know Didrik Decibel. Yes, Didrik Decibel. Didrik, he liked his speakers tall, the volume loud, and his amplifiers big. And then he kind of faded away. But this fall, we're going to make something that will wake Didrik from his cold grave and come up and play again. This will be something he's gonna like.
You'll sure make it happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. So that was our visit to Hegel in Oslo. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching.
Yeah. Bye.